Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. I hope you can hear me all okay. And look at that, smack on 9 o'clock. That's more luck than judgment, I can assure you, trying to time the videos to finish at the right time. And welcome to Team Webinar. And great to see so many of you on here. Let's have a quick look how many we're up to at the moment. 240, not enough. We've got unlimited attendees that are allowed on here. I'll say that again, even attendees that are on here. So if you have a look through on the attendee list and you can see that your team member isn't in there, maybe they've forgotten, either text them, call them, whatever, but make sure they are on, because we can never guarantee the recordings. And some people play that game and think, oh, well, you know, we'll wait for the recording to come out, and it doesn't work. It does happen occasionally, so we would highly recommend that you get them in, and it's never the same anyway unless you're actually in live on the webinar, of course. And just to let you know, we are using Google Hangouts technology here. You actually see us slightly in history, if you like, or yeah, that's right, in history, because we're about 30 to 45 seconds ahead of you. So we will freeze the chat just after we start. So if you've got anything to say, you better do it quickly. Also, you will see on there, of course, that our Twitter buttons and Facebook buttons, and feel free to use that, because anybody that joins the webinar, at the end we will show them a version of the opportunity video. And if they are interested, obviously we'll point them back to you. And many people I know have joined Clean Easy by watching this webinar, or similar type of webinar, of course, in the past. Now, what we would recommend, if you do have any team members reporting any problems, now why this should be, I don't know, but if you do, the first thing we suggest is to say to go to use Google Chrome instead of Internet Explorer and Firefox preferably. They should work on those browsers, but we've always found that's the first thing, and that normally cures 99% of problems. Now, what I would like to do as well in the chat, if you could show other people, I know there's some old hands here, what we do to give applause in the webinar room, because I know looking on here there are quite a few new people. In fact, I saw Tim and Sharon, two different distributorships, have just started this evening, so some very new people on here, so they won't know. So if you can show them, that's right, by hitting the A key, okay, is what we do for applause. It's great to give some feedback, of course, to the speaker, or speakers in this case, of course, because they can't hear you. Okay, so you know, make it as much like a meeting room as possible. Even though this is online, we do try and make it as much like a normal meeting that you would attend in a hotel or something like that. Now, okay, so less waffle from me. Let me tell you about this evening's special guest speakers. Mike and Jean Day joined back in 2002 now, and they initially joined, as many people do, to earn an additional £300 to £600 per month to help pay the bills after Mike was made redundant. However, this all changed, or the plan changed, just a few months later when Jean was made redundant as well. And they decided to get really, really busy with their business, and just 3 months later they got to the gold distributor status, which shows you what you can do in 3 months. And from that day to this, they really have never looked back. Now, on their Clean Easy journey, they've been rewarded with numerous trips overseas, and they've also won a Mini Cooper and a BMW 3 Series as well. And that's, of course, on top of their brilliant income, which is in excess now of £90,000 per year. So, please get ready on your A keys to welcome, to start with this evening, Mike Day.
Hi everybody, good evening. I hope you can all hear me. Yes, I'm a bit new to this technology, so do bear with us as we go through everything. First of all, I'd like to thank Andy for inviting us along to speak, and obviously all of you on the call tonight logging in to listen to us both. Tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about our story. Andy wanted me to cover our story, so I'm going to do it from just a slightly different angle, and then I'm going to be talking about self-development, just a little bit of training on self-development. Yes. For those of you who don't know, for the new people out there, Jean and I have been in business 13 years now. And the thing is, when you've been in the business for quite a while, you can become a little blasé about what this business can give you compared to the job world out there. So what I'm going to do is take you through my training now. Everything goes well. Yes, okay. Here we go. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what the business has given us in the 13 years we've been in the business compared to the job world. And it all starts with the better income than the job. Now, as Andy's just spoken about there, we now earn about £90,000 a year. But in jobs, Jean and I both had a really good job. Jean's always been in sales, and I've been in quite an experienced job in the printing industry. So we both earned about £35,000 a year 13 years ago. So it was giving us about £60,000 to £70,000 a year income, which was quite good, especially in those days. So today, we're obviously with Clean Easy, we're earning more income than we did in the job. And I know there's many people out there who are earning £1,500, £2,000 a month, which is the same type of income you get from a job. So it can give you better income than a job, better security than a job. Well, it certainly does that, because Jean and I, we were both made redundant when we joined the business. We were both in our mid-50s. Jean had been made redundant from her sales position, and I was made redundant twice in the 3 years from a printing industry. Now the thing was, we both could have got our jobs back again, but all we could see for the future was more and more redundancy. So certainly we didn't feel secure in that future going forward with getting another job. And we've also now been in, as you know, in Clean Easy for 13 years. So it's the longest time both of us have ever spent with one company. So it certainly gives us a lot more security than a job. Before, in my printing industry, I worked for 40 years, and in that time I had, believe it or not, I had 32 jobs in 40 years. But the thing is, not one of those companies is around anymore. Not because I was working for them, but none of them are around anymore. And yet look at Clean Easy, 90 years, it's been over 90 years now, it's been going, and we've been in the business for 13 years. So it's certainly given us far more security than a job ever did. And yet most of us do tend to think that a job is a secure position. Better tax position than a job, without a doubt, because with a job, obviously you pay your Y as you go along, you pay it up front straight away. With the business, you can obviously claim a lot more from an self-employment position. But whatever you do, we're not in tax avoidance. So please bear that in mind. And whatever you do, don't open a Swiss bank account. Pension. Wow, what can I say about pension? It's one of my biggest. Jean and I, even though we had good jobs, had no pension at all. No pension. And that was one of the reasons we joined Clean Easy when we heard about residual income, because we dreaded the idea, really dreaded the idea of living on the basic state pension. We didn't want to be poor as we get older. And so the idea of just existing on a state pension was terrible for us. So what we wanted was something that could give us some way of earning money when we went past pension age, which we both are now past pension age, by the way. So we were looking for something. And when we heard about this residual income from Peter and Jackie, our sponsors, we thought, wow, that's what we need. And if we could just earn maybe £2,000 a month when we get past 65, that would be fantastic. So that was one of our main reasons for joining the business. But when we speak at meetings, I quite often ask the question of people, who's got a pension for the future? And you know what? There's maybe, you can count on one hand the number of people who've got a pension in place for when they retire. And it's really going to be a massive time bomb for the future. So if you haven't got a pension, I do implore you to really look at the opportunity and what you're doing with it, and look at that they can give you a pension. More flexibility than a job. It can certainly give you more flexibility. We all know many people, especially people with children, where they can go to the sports stage with the children, and they can do a lot more things around your self-employment business than you can with a job. Because a job, obviously, you're restricted to your 40 hours a week, asking the boss for permission. But it's quite a daunting thing to be able to miss things with your children and things like that. Better happiness than a job. Well, without a doubt. We all dread that when we're in positions of a job. We all dread that Monday morning feeling and can't wait for Friday. It's a routine that we all go through all the time. And Jean, as I said, was in sales, and I've actually seen Jean crying with the stress at the target she was given in sales. And believe me, there's nothing that's more worrying for that than your future. So for Jean and I, the happiness we've had in Clean Easy is unbelievable compared to what we were in the job world. Better incentives in the job. Well, what can I say about this? Let me share with you some of the things that we have done. Because most people will never have the opportunity to stay in a five-star hotel, which we've done many times with Clean Easy. Most people will never have the opportunity to go on a safari, which again we've done with Clean Easy when we qualified for the conference in South Africa at the, what's it called now? Sun City, I do apologise. We used to live there, can you believe it? Sun City in South Africa. We went to the nighttime safari with Clean Easy, which is absolutely fantastic, unbelievable. Most people will never in their lives hang glide over Copacabana Beach in Rio, Brazil, which Gina and I did. One of our goals was a fantastic achievement for us both. Scared to death, but we managed to do it. Most people will never fly in a helicopter over New York, something again we did with the Clean Easy conference. And Andy was with us then, the distributor of the year. Andy and Sue were with us on that one. It was absolutely awesome to fly over Central Park in New York. Most people will never drive down Florida Keys in a Ford Mustang. Was that an experience? But I'm telling you. And again, Andy was with us and Sue. And believe it or not, Andy didn't do the return drive because he had too much to drink. Most people will never go to a mass ball in Venice. What an occasion that was, just recently now. An amazing ballroom that we all went to that night. It was unbelievable. Opera singers, the whole thing. It made you very emotional. And most people will never ever wine and dine under the stars at the Armani Hotel in Dubai. Possibly the best dinner dance that we've ever been to in our lives. The setting was just unbelievable. And unfortunately, Jean couldn't be with me on that one because we were having our grandson. But that was probably the best dinner dance that we've ever been to our lives. So all of these things have been amazing, and just a short few things that we've done with Clean Easy. As Andy said at the beginning there, we've actually been on over 20 conferences now with Clean Easy, and they've taken us all over the world. And it has been an absolutely fantastic journey, an amazing journey. And as Andy said, we've also qualified for a BMW and a Mini Cooper, and we've achieved the Distributor of the Year, just like Andy and Sue. A fantastic accolade from the company. So all of these things that we've done over the 13 years in the business have certainly given us a lot of self-confidence, self-belief and self-motivation. And just recently, at the end of the 2014, we were speaking at a meeting to our key people, and we were asking them what the main challenges were for going forward in the business for 2015 that we could concentrate on and focus on at our meetings. Without a question of a doubt, most people said it was self-confidence, self-belief and self-motivation, which obviously comes under the banner of self-development. Those voices in your head that tell you not to do things when you know you should be doing them, things that we all have. So that's what I want to speak about now. And when this came up at our meeting, it sort of, if you like, puzzled me to why it was such a thing in this business. And I want to share that now with you and see if I can explain to you what my take is on it, and then to give you 6 things which I know will help you with your self-confidence, belief and motivation. You see, most people in Clean Easy have never been self-employed. They've never been self-employed. Most people have always worked for a boss and been employed, working the 40 hours and things like that. Now I know, because I was exactly the same when I joined. As I said, I've been in the printing industry for 40 years. So when I joined Clean Easy, it was difficult for me to discipline myself to work the hours that I needed to work. And we all know what happens. It's quite easy where in the job you might have been, in my case, leaving home at 7 o'clock, starting work at 8 o'clock. And when you join Clean Easy, and especially when you're full-time in the business, it's so easy to start at, even though you're working from home, to start at maybe 8 o'clock. Then eventually it can get to 9 o'clock, and then so easily it can get to 10 o'clock. And I was no different. That's how I was. It was very difficult for me to employ myself in the beginning of the business because Jean wasn't on board till about 3 or 4 months after I started. Now, thankfully, Jean had spells of being self-employed, so she knew she could discipline herself to do that. And so obviously all she needed to do was get the whip out for me. But self-employment is something that we take for granted, and we have to bear in mind that most people have never been self-employed. So it's quite a challenge to a lot of people to do the things that you need to do, like setting goals. Most people have never set goals in their life. Usually the biggest goal they've ever set might be their annual holiday every year, where they can plan to do that. But setting goals as far as a job goes is very unusual when you're employed. So obviously with Clean Easy, you need to set goals, and again, it can be quite a challenge. So you have to bear that in mind with new people, and when you're starting them on the progressing in the business, how to achieve set goals and how to achieve them. And self-discipline, again, is one of these things that we take for granted when we join the business, but once you're in employment, it's something that you don't really think about because everything's planned for you. You have to go into those 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, and that's what you have to do. And that's what you discipline to do by your boss. So when it's self-discipline, again, it's a different concept to take on board for new people, because most people think of self-discipline purely probably along the lines of the diet and things like that, and biting nails and stopping smoking. That's how they look upon self-discipline. So when they come into the business, it's quite a challenge for them. Retailing. Most people in Clean Easy, prior to Clean Easy, have never retailed in their lives. And for the very few people who have, it's probably in the shopping environment. So again, retailing, when you're self-employed and it's all down to you to go out to your customers and service them and give them good customer service, again, it's a new concept. So although it seems a simple business in that regard, there's still a lot to take on board. Sponsoring people into the business, and if you like, being almost looking at being in charge of people when they come into the business is quite a daunting task for people because they've never done any sponsoring in their lives. So almost taking the position of being a leader or sponsoring somebody into the business can be quite daunting, that you know that you have to teach these people what to do, and it's something that we've never done in their lives. Coaching people. Most people have never ever coached in their lives. So the idea of training people and teaching them what to do and taking up the pay plan through all the different levels, again, is something that's really, really new and has to be focused and concentrated on in the business. And the same as being a leader. Being a leader is something that most people would never imagine they would need to do in their lives. And with Clean Easy, it can quite often happen quite accidentally, where you bring 3 or 4 people into your team, and all of a sudden they're looking to you to be their leader. And again, it's quite an unusual thing outside most people's comfort zones. As we all know, public speaking, which is the #1 fear of everybody in the universe, apparently. And it certainly was for me in the beginning, and like it was for many people, where I've had moments where my mouth's been completely stuck together dry, and you have to get over it and carry on. It's all part of being in the business and improving your self-confidence. Reading. For most people, reading, when we mention reading and reading self-development books, most people, the reading they've ever done is reading the newspaper and maybe a novel on holiday. That is what people look upon as reading. So when we quite innocently say about reading self-development books, they don't really take on board what we're meaning and understand. So you have to bear with them and take them along gradually. And the same with attitude. We speak about having the right attitude and not having a bad attitude, but most people have never heard of the concept of attitude and how it means and how it relates to the business. So again, we have to be careful with how we approach the subject. Meetings, which we all take for granted, come along to meetings. As we know, most people their impression of meetings is boredom and that they don't really want to go along. But we know that they're so crucial to this business. But again, it's something that we have to bear in mind, especially in the beginning and with new people. And I know for myself, the idea of going to a meeting on a Saturday or Sunday, at the beginning for me was like, no, I don't do things like that weekend. Weekend is for pleasure. So again, it's something that you have to take on board with new people. And having dreams, most people having dreams is something that they will never ever expect to come true. And the very idea that you can have dreams that can come true with this wonderful business, again, is outside of their comfort zone. So you have to take them through the steps gradually. So with all of those things, which to many people who've been in the business for a while can seem quite normal, for most new people, they are outside of their comfort zones. So what can we do? What kind of things can we do to improve our self-confidence, discipline and motivation? So I just want to give you 6 things which I know will improve those things for you, providing, as we always say, you do them persistently and consistently. And I know some of these things you've heard them before, but I want to give you a slightly different angle on them. And the number 1 is read 10 pages a day, every day. This is something that Gene will tell you I do every day because I go to the toilet every morning, and every day I spend 10 minutes reading a self-development book. Now the thing is here, I hear many people, I hear it all the time, saying that they've read this book in the weekend, they've read 30 books, they've read 20 books, they've read this book in a week. And yes, they seem proud of it, but they're missing the point. The point is that you need to read every day. If you read a novel on a holiday or just a self-development book in a week, there's no way that will go into your subconscious mind. The only way that self-development books will go into your subconscious mind and change the way you think and change your habits is by reading 10 pages a day. And it has to be every day. And it doesn't matter which book it is, but it needs to be daily, 10 minutes a day. Now, some people say they haven't got time to read and things like that, but you do. Everybody has 10 minutes a day when they can read just 10 pages. I know it was Jeff Olson in New York who went on about this, but it's something I've always believed, and Jim will tell you. And it's so, so crucial. And we tell our people all the time to read just 10 pages a day, and that will change your mindset and change your habits eventually. Do they do it? Unfortunately, no. It's one of these things that's easy to do, but easy also not to do. So I do urge you to do that number 1 thing in the beginning, without doubt. Read 10 pages a day. Number 2 is to acknowledge and critique your self-talk. We all have self-talk, and we all have those negative and positive voices in our mind all the time, telling us to do things, to put things off, to not do things, to do it the next day. It doesn't really matter. And the trouble is that we convince ourselves that what we're saying to ourselves sometimes is true, even though in the back of our minds we know it's not true, that we need to do them. So what you've got to do is, first of all, you've got to acknowledge that negative self-talk when it comes into your mind, and question yourself and critique yourself and say, why do I think that way? Why am I having that thought right now? And how can I change it? What can I do to change it? Because half of the battle is acknowledging it and then critiquing it. Because if you don't do that, you will just convince yourself that what you've thought, even if it's a negative thought, is right. You'll find evidence that supports that negative thought you've had, and believe it. So you've got to acknowledge and critique yourself all the time with the negative thought that you have. You've got to change the language you use. Most of us, as I said at the beginning, because we've been in jobs and read the papers, etc., we do use negative language. It's quite often normal, and it's normal out there with normal people. They will use negative language, moaning, complaining all the time. And obviously this goes into your subconscious as well. So I advise you all to start using the positive language, like fantastic, brilliant, challenge instead of a problem, those kind of things. The more you use them in your mind, the more your subconscious mind will start to think, hey, this guy or this lady wants to change these things she's thinking, wants to change her habits, and wants to change a subconscious thought. And that's how you start to change your mind. You've got to restrict the time spent with negative people. I know this is something that we are concerned about, especially with family and friends, and we do all have family and friends who are negative. I know Gene and I do. And what you have to do is, with negative people, especially in your friends and family, which I do, is to don't sit with them for long periods of time talking about negative stuff. You've got to either move about the house, move about the home, do something, make a cup of tea, like I do with my family members quite often. I won't listen to negative talk for a long time, or just change the subject. Simply change the subject, but don't let yourself get drawn in, sucked in to these negative conversations for long periods of time, because it will affect you. Number 5 is you must have visuals and goals. And I know People bang on about it all the time. What you do have to do, again, because of your subconscious mind, if your subconscious mind cannot see what you want, then it can't go take you towards it. So wherever it may be, and it doesn't have to be massive goals and massive visions of the future. It can be simple steps along the way, just the next steps along the way, whether it's qualifying for a gold or qualifying for a conference, or even if it's a holiday you want to go on, or a car you want to purchase, wherever it may be, you must have visuals around you all the time, on your phone, in your house, on the walls, on your computer, everything, to something that activates your subconscious mind all the time to start to drive you towards that vision and goal. Because if you don't have them, it won't happen. And finally, my sixth tip is don't think and just do it, which again seems quite a simple phrase to say, but it's not, because of the conversation you have in your mind, you have to just do it. What you need to do is override, once there's something you need to do and you know you have to do it, don't have the conversations about should I, shouldn't I, just do it. Override those conversations and just do it. And if you listen to many athletes, especially runners, and the commentators always ask them, what do you think about when you're in the race? And they will always say, nothing. All they do is just do it, because all the planning has been done beforehand. Once they hit the race, they just do it. And the same with the business. If there's something you need to do, whether it's putting catalogs out, speaking to somebody on the phone, wherever it may be, just do it and carry on with it. And I think it will work in that way. So I hope that's helped. I hope it's given you some ideas of how to improve your self-development, self-confidence, self-motivation. And I'm now going to hand you over to my better half, who's going to speak to you right now. You bear with me.
Oh,
bye everyone.
Good evening everyone. It really is fantastic to be with you all tonight, and thank you for tuning in and taking time to hopefully improve your businesses. And I really do hope that you gained some great feedback from what Mike just did. I thought it was really, really good, although I'm a little bit biased. And thank you to Andy for asking us on again. What I'm going to be talking to you about for tonight really is about when you're talking to your prospect, what you're actually saying to them, and some tips on how to maybe say some things in a different way, and maybe a few skills that you could pick up to help you, and some closing statements as well. So if you've got your notebooks ready, that would be absolutely fantastic. So let's start with our first slide, and Mike's putting it on for me because I will tell you I don't want to mess this up tonight for any of you. That's fantastic. No, that's on yours, Mike. Okay. So we're going to start with this first slide, and it is that most people are afraid of the S word. And what is the S word? It is, of course, sales and salesman. And most people are frightened of that word. But, you know, it really does conjure up in our minds some funny things, doesn't it? When we think of salesman or sales, what do we really think of? What comes into our minds? It comes into our minds of a pushy person, a sleazy person, sometimes a dishonest person, sometimes even a bullshitter. You know, some of these salesmen talk a load of bull, don't they? And that's what we start to think of. And, you know, then we start to think of, oh, shall I ever close the sale? And have you ever felt like that? Well, you know, I've been in sales all my life, really. 30 years I've been in sales. And what we've got to remember, guys, in Clean Easy, because we put catalogues out, we don't sell. And that's why this business is so fantastic. But let us not kid ourselves that when we sponsor people into the business and when we want to step up to the plate to become leaders, we are selling ourselves. When we are selling, we're selling ourselves. And so it's really, really important that we learn some skills on how to do that. And I know for me, when I joined Clean Easy, because I've not had just been in direct sales and party plan, I've also done some very hardcore sales, like when I worked for Nissan. And so when I actually joined Clean Easy, I actually had to make quite a few changes because I had to learn to be softer with my sales. You could call it a pitch if you like, but I did have to learn to be softer. And I'm going to give you a few closing statements as we go through this presentation as well. But that's what is conjured up in our minds when we think of sales, and we have got to get that out of our minds, because in life we are always selling. It started when we were born. We never stopped asking and receiving to get our own way. You know, we've just had a new grandson. He's 14 months old now. But when he was first born, and I'm sure lots of you can relate to this, when a baby cries and they're screaming for their bottle, and they will not shut up until we put that bottle in their mouth till they get what they want. And then as they grow up and they want things, they can have a few tantrums, can't they? And they can stamp their feet until they get what they want. And then they have that cute little smile that manipulates us so that we give in and give them what they want. But you know, as we grow up, rejection starts to change us. And rejection starts to make us believe that selling isn't right. Because we get rejected so much, from leaving school and getting our first job, even to getting our first boyfriend. Maybe we've gone through quite a lot of rejection to get a boyfriend or get married. Rejection stops us, but you know, we are always selling ourselves in life from the minute we are born. So we do start to think and believe that and conceive that it's pushy, that we're pushy and we're annoying, especially when we're recruiting people and around our teams. We've got to get that out of our minds, because we've got to think of this. We've got to think of the ABC when we're talking to people on the phone to recruit them. We've always got to think of closing people, because your goal when you're talking to people on the phone is to get them to join your opportunity and to close them. You're not talking to them for the good of your health. And you've also got to remember something else, that you're not selling to them either, because they have rung you up or answered your advert for a reason. They've approached you and they have got a problem in their life, and what you have got to do is literally close them to join your opportunity. And you know, I learned this about closing when I actually worked for Nissan, and that was a very hard close, if you like, because I used to sell fleet cars to companies, and I used to have to call on transport managers. And I never forget, when I very first started, I had to go on a course to learn all about cars, and I knew nothing about engines and torque and pistons and all this sort of thing. And so when I'd done my training course and I went to do my first appointment, I got taught a very valuable lesson that day, because I went into this really hardcore transport man, and I was giving him such a fantastic pitch about all the facts about the Nissan engines and all what he should have. And at the very end, when I tried to close him, he just looked at me and he just said, "Jean, that was really good, but always remember 3 things. First of all, you could have closed me into buying from you in the first 5 minutes. And also remember something else, that you make closing statements as soon as you open your mouth, and you don't leave it to the very end. And also remember something else, that facts don't sell, benefits do." And I sometimes think that when we're recruiting people, we have got to remember that we get very bogged down in the factual things of the business, and we've really, really got to be turning people on with the benefits of what this business can do for them. And that's where I learned a hard lesson that day, and it's carried me in good stead throughout my sales career. I've really tried to keep that in mind. Always be closing, always use closing statements right from the word go. And you know, as you do that, Mike spoke about attitude, belief and confidence. And as you start getting more yeses, you know, your attitude and your confidence and your belief just soars in this business. But you know, it's like anything, it takes practice, because practice, you know, when we first start, I don't know about you, we're not born to do this, we have to practice it. And I always remember what my dad used to say to me: I can't put an old head on young shoulders. And in this business, you can't put an experienced head on brand new people that start to sponsor. So never beat yourself up, just keep on practicing and practicing the close and what you say to people. So let's have a little look at that. So upon speaking to people, to anyone for the first time, you must bear in mind these three things. You need to be as sharp as a tack. And as sharp as a tack means don't be vague when you're talking to people. Have snappy answers ready, and that takes practice. Don't be wishy-washy. Be resolute in your answers and speak with clarity. Be sharp in everything that you say to them, because that will give that person confidence in you, because people want to join confident people, and that's how you build a rapport up with the person in the first 10 seconds of them hearing you on the phone. Because, you know, most of us do phone appointments now. Obviously, if you're doing face-to-face, that applies as well. But that sharp as a tack is so important to grab people's attention right from the word go. And then you need to be as enthusiastic as hell about your business. But I don't mean shouting and screaming like a lunatic, like I was in the beginning when I used to go and do our appointments. I used to get so excited, I used to put the people off because I was a little bit overbearing about it. But time teaches you to step back and be enthusiastic in a quiet, confident way. You can just be as enthusiastic in that way as a person that stands up shouting and screaming can. You've also got to learn to be a figure of authority, an expert in your field, so that when you're talking to people, you know exactly what you're saying to them. And that again is all about practicing your presentation, practicing handling objections, and just being that figure of authority that when you talk, they think, wow, I want to join that person. They sound really good. They really do sound the type of person that can get me to where I want to be. They sound like the type of person that really can get me to earn that extra £300 to £500 a month that I'm looking for right now, so that you can instill confidence in that person from the word go. So those three things, first of all, you need to get in place and practice them. And then, number two, appearance matters. You know, we hear people say all the time, dress for success, because people will judge you in the first 4 seconds of seeing you. Now, that can apply whether you're talking to your team at meetings, or whether you're talking face-to-face with a prospect, or even whether you are on the telephone. Believe it or not, that person knows what you are like when you're talking on the phone. And what I mean by that is, we had somebody in our team, and he used to do all his calls in his pajamas, can you believe it? And I said to him, do you know what? People will pick that up, that you're sitting there in your PJs and that you've just got out of bed, because they will be able to hear it and judge you on how you sound. So even if you're talking on the phone, be ready for business and be serious about what you're doing. And then, you know, we talk about mirroring people. Making people feel comfortable with you means mirroring them. And on the phone, when you do that, what that means is how you do that is if a person is talking slowly, you talk slowly and take their pace. If a person is talking very quickly, well then you're going to have to speed up with them because they're obviously sharp and they want you to be hurrying up. So don't be droning on. Mirror how they are, because it's quite amazing how people think that you're like them, so you've got to make them feel that way. And then we look at tonality, and this can make a massive difference to your success. It really, really can. Think, how do you speak to people on the phone? How do you sound? Are you good at tonality? Or do you sound monotoned? You know, it's quite amazing how people, when they sound monotone, can just put people right off. So the best way to do this is to raise your voice up and down as you talk. Don't speak on all one level. And also, smile as you talk. We always tell our team, smile as you dial, and that will come across in your voice. Can you tell that I'm smiling right now because my voice has changed? And that is how you've got to sound when you're talking to people on the phone, to capture them. The tonality of your voice will just come across to them down that phone. The other thing is that you need to be able to answer objections before they come up. Anticipate what the objections are going to be ahead of time, so that when you come to the very end of your presentation, they're not going to start giving you all the bull of, oh, what about other distributors? Or, oh, I'd like to think about it. Or, oh, I'd like to speak to my wife. So if when you're doing your presentation, just drop those things in about other distributors and about catalogues and how we get given free catalogues and how their wife will be so delighted that they joined because you could actually chat to her as well. Is she available now? And we'll have a little chat, so that you don't leave it all to the end, so that they can put them off joining you and start giving you all sorts of objections. Because when you're new, that can really throw you. So start to anticipate and learn what the objections of people are going to be ahead of time. And then this is a very big one, number 6. You need to stay on track of your presentation. We call this in our business staying on the straight line and not going off that straight line. Don't let the conversation go off track. You know, when people start talking to you about the kids or what the prospect, you know, likes to do, you know, that when you're new, you start thinking that you want to make a friend of them, and it throws you completely off the line of being in control of that presentation, because that's what you want to be. You want to be totally in control of the questions you ask them and the answers that you give them. Because your goal is one thing and one thing only, to get them to join the business. Not to become their friends. No, you become their friends once they join the business. So don't let your conversation go off track, and just keep them back on track by asking them relevant questions and not letting them control you. Another point is very important, which for me was difficult because I was a salesperson. You need to know when to shut up. It's always best to keep to your script. Know exactly what you're going to say at that appointment. And even before you pick the phone up, and especially when you're new, have a little run through, have a little practice, anticipate the sort of people that you're going to be speaking to. You need to learn to pause more and let the prospect think, and don't be afraid of those awkward silences. So when you ask a question, don't be frightened of an awkward silence, and let that prospect really think about the answer that they're going to give to you, because this is a serious business that we want them to join, and we want them to be really thinking about the questions that we're asking them, especially when we ask them how much money are they looking to earn, and what are the reasons for wanting to join you right now. And those are the sort of things that you've got to really, really dig deep on when you're talking to people on the phone. So don't be frightened of awkward silences. You've got to draw out of people what they really want out of their lives, what sort of incomes they want, what sort of holidays they want, what sort of cars they want to drive, what sort of things do they want for their children, and what if they won the lottery, what would they be doing with the money? So really get them talking. It's not about you talking, it's about you listening. You see, you will subtly, I can't say that word, subtly agitate your prospects' problems. Let them talk about what's wrong with their job, because most people hate the job, but never ever tell them that, let it come from them. What's wrong in their life, what they're looking for, why have they replied, and how you can help them. Ask questions that are going to get them talking about their problem. Because once they're talking about their problem, it's come from them. Then all you've got to do is show them how they can solve it. It really is as simple as that. But like I keep saying, it does take practice. So, I've been talking about closing, always be closing. And we are actually, should be, closing people right from the word go. Because in your presentation, everything has an open, a middle, and a close. So as soon as you start opening and talking to them, you should be closing them in a very subtle way. And these are the sort of little statements that you can be saying throughout your presentation that gets them to really think, yeah, you know, I could do this, and yeah, you know, that person sounds nice. So again, it takes practice, and when you first start saying these things, you might think you sound corny, but you don't. It's just because you've not said them enough, and maybe you're a little bit out of your comfort zone. So one of the things you could say is, trust me, you will not be sorry. The only regret you will have is that you didn't join me 6 months ago. That's a little soft statement, that is a little soft close. I call it a soft drop close. Another thing is that you could say very early on in the presentation when they've spoken to you, I pride myself in helping people to earn the income that they want. Now that will give them confidence in you that you've helped many people earn their incomes that they want. Another good thing is you will love it. It's a great business. And then this is a really good one. So as they've been speaking to you and you've found out what they want, you could then just drop a statement in. You know, Mary, before I tell you a little bit more about all the how you join and this sort of thing, from what you've told me about what you're wanting, this really sounds like a perfect fit for you. You see, that's a soft close, and they will be nodding as you're talking. You see, soft closes give the prospects confidence in you. So, closing the appointment to finish. Number one, we have to build rapport. And build rapport means getting them to be confident with you through asking lots of questions. You're going to gather effective intelligence about that person so that you can build up the presentation around their wants and needs. You're going to build an airtight, logical and emotional case for them, because people will always join on emotions, the benefits, how it's going to change their life and their family's life. And you're going to close the appointment by getting them to join, and to do that, they must love you, they must love the opportunity and love the company, and most of all, love you. So I hope a few of those things have helped you, and I look forward to seeing you all at some of the meetings up and down the country. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Andy, once again for having us on. It's been great to talk to you all. Let's have a fantastic, amazing period 3. God bless you all, and I'll speak to you all soon. And bye for now.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Mike and Jean. Really appreciate you taking some time out this evening, obviously, to share your thoughts and your training with the team as well. And I do dispute your version of events, Mike, about me drinking too much in the Florida Keys. I didn't drive back for a completely different reason, and because of that, I decided to have a few drinks, and they were all very jealous. But hey ho. Shouldn't have really brought it up. I'm just adding fuel to the fire. Anyway, next month we have senior executive distributors and a first-time speaker. Don't know why we haven't had him in over 3 years now, nearly 4 years on Team Webinar, is Gary Watson. And Gary will be with us on the 17th of March at 9 p.m, so do make sure that is in your diary. And he and his wife Esther, they're actually in Tenerife at the moment, so I phoned them, and that's the sort of thing Clean Easy allows you to do, run your business while you're in Tenerife. But he and his wife Esther earned £10,000 in a 4-week period just before Christmas, so that's something you can learn something from, I'm sure you'd agree. And also now they're doing a lot of online sales, so if that's your thing, which I know it is for many of you, I know for the last just before Christmas and also last month they just moved over £7,000 worth of stuff online each month. Okay, so make sure that you're definitely here for that one. And those of you that have joined us to find out more about our business, stick around for about 6 or 7 minutes after this, and we'll play you a short video, and that'll go through a little bit more about both the online side of our opportunity and the offline side as well. So don't forget to give Mike and Jean your feedback on here. We will open, as we come to the end of this, we will open the chat, of course. So yes, of course, put your A's on there, fantastic. But also let them have some feedback of what you thought. And of course, using the Facebook groups, either the Success group or the online group, or your own groups, of course, you know, do give some feedback. Let people know about this. You know, it's only by talking about it. Don't keep it secret. Let your team know what you've been doing. Hopefully the recording will be done okay. So we will be able to share that within the groups tomorrow, of course, as well. So have a fantastic period, everybody, and we will see you back here on the 17th of whatever it is, March. Okay, good night, everyone.